For 3,000 years, the galaxy had known nothing but war. In the black void between the stars, two mighty civilizations fought battles so fierce that entire solar systems became graveyards of twisted metal and broken dreams. Commander Hyunwoo stood on the bridge of his crystal warship, watching another battle unfold on the main screen. His ship was made of living crystal that grew stronger with each fight, its walls pulsing with blue energy that could tear through space itself. Around him, his crew worked at stations that looked like frozen waterfalls, their hands dancing over controls made of pure light. "Enemy ships approaching from the left side," called out Lieutenant So Young from her post. Her voice stayed calm even as explosions lit up the darkness outside. She had been fighting this war for 50 years, just like her father before her and his father before him. The enemy ships looked like giant insects made of metal and flesh. They moved in swarms, their hulls breathing like living things, weapons that fired streams of acid and creatures that could eat through the strongest armor. These were the vessels of the Hive Collective, a race that had turned their own bodies into living machines. Hyunwoo had been fighting them his entire life. His grandfather had died in these same battles. His children would probably die here too. This was the way of things. The war was older than memory, older than the oldest stories. His people told. "Fire the main crystal cannons," he ordered. The ship hummed as beams of pure energy shot across space, striking 3 of the insect ships and turning them into clouds of glowing dust. But for every ship they destroyed, 2 more took its place. On the other side of the battle, deep inside, a ship that looked like a massive beetle, Hive Queen Minna felt the deaths of her children through the connection that linked all her people. She did not grieve, because grief was wasteful. Instead, she ordered more ships to be grown from the breeding chambers deep in her vessel's belly. Her people had no names as individuals. They were all part of her, extensions of her will, her thoughts made flesh and metal. When they died, she simply made more. This was how they had fought for 3,000 years, throwing wave after wave of living ships against the crystal fleets of their enemies. The battle raged for 6 hours. When it ended, both sides had lost dozens of ships and thousands of lives. No territory changed hands. No strategic advantage was gained. It was exactly like the battle fought here last month, and the month before that, and every month for longer than anyone could remember. "Sir," So Young said as they collected their damaged ships and prepared to retreat, "our long-range scouts have found something interesting." Hyunwoo barely looked up from his damage reports. "What is it?" "A small star. System. Just one star, a few planets. There are people living on the 3rd planet from the sun. They call their world Earth." The commander glanced at the data screen. The information was simple and unimpressive. The humans, as they called themselves, had learned to fly in space, but had never left their own small corner of the galaxy. Their ships moved by burning chemicals. Their weapons threw pieces of metal. Their fastest vessels would take hundreds of years to reach the nearest star. "Primitive," Hyunwoo said with a slight smile. "Mark their location and forget about them. We have real enemies to fight." The data about Earth was filed away in the crystal memory banks and forgotten. Across the battlefield, Hive Queen Minna received the same information through her scouts and dismissed it just as quickly. A species that had never left its home system posed no threat to anyone. Neither commander could have imagined that they had just cataloged the most dangerous species in the galaxy. The war continued, as it always had. Crystal ships and insect fleets met in the void between stars, fighting over worlds that had been reduced to ash centuries ago. Soldiers died for causes they no longer remembered, following orders given by leaders who had inherited this conflict from their ancestors. Now, the deepest archives of both civilizations, there were records of how the war had started, a trade dispute perhaps, or a misunderstanding about territorial boundaries. But those records were covered in dust, and no one alive cared about ancient history. The war had become its own reason for existing. Young officers like So Young learned to fight before they learned to read. Children grew up knowing they would spend their lives in battle. Artists created works about glorious death in combat. Scientists devoted their research to building better weapons. The war had consumed everything both civilizations had once been, leaving only the machinery of destruction. And far away, on a small blue planet orbiting an ordinary yellow star, the humans lived their quiet lives. They had wars of their own, small conflicts over resources and beliefs, but they also had peace. They built cities and wrote songs and loved their children. They looked up at the stars and wondered if anyone else was out there. They had no idea that their galaxy was burning, that ancient civilizations were locked in an endless dance of destruction just a few light years away. They could not have known that their innocent curiosity about the universe would soon change everything. The war was endless, as it had always been, until the day it would not be. 2 years after the discovery of Earth, everything changed in the worst possible way. Dr. Jinho was the first human to touch alien technology. His mining team had been working on the dark side of the moon when they found the wreckage of a strange ship buried in an old crater. The vessel looked like it had been grown rather than built, with walls that curved like ribs and machinery that pulsed like a heartbeat. "This is impossible," Jinho whispered as he ran his gloved hands over the smooth surface. The ship was clearly not made by human hands. It was proof that Earth was not alone in the universe. Inside the crashed ship, they found star maps that made Jinho's heart race with excitement and terror. The holographic displays showed hundreds of star systems, trade routes, and battle zones. 2 massive civilizations were fighting a war that covered half the galaxy, and Earth sat right in the middle of their territory. Jinho rushed back to Earth with his discovery. Within days, every government on the planet knew the truth. Humanity was not alone, and the neighbors were not friendly. The aliens had been fighting each other for thousands of years, their battles raging just beyond humanity's ability to see or hear them. "We need to make contact," Jinho told the emergency meeting of world leaders in New York. "We need to show them that we are peaceful, that we want to learn and help." President Cha of the United Earth Council nodded slowly. She was a careful woman who had spent her life trying to bring peace between nations. Now she faced the much harder task of bringing peace between worlds. "We will send our best people," she decided. "Scientists, diplomats, artists. We will show them the best of humanity." The ship they built was called Hope's Promise. It was humanity's most advanced vessel, powered by fusion engines and equipped with every scientific instrument they could fit inside. But compared to the alien technology they had found on the moon, it was like comparing a paper airplane to a jet fighter. Ambassador Taemin led the mission. He was a man who had spent 30 years helping enemies become friends, who had ended 3 wars with nothing but words and patience. If anyone could make peace with aliens, it would be him. His wife Hana and their 7-year-old daughter Mira came to see him off at the space station. "Come back safe," Hana whispered as she hugged him. "The galaxy is big enough for all of us to be friends." Taemin smiled and kissed his daughter's forehead. "When I return, I will bring you stories about alien worlds and new friends among the stars." Hope's Promise launched on a Tuesday morning. The entire world watched as humanity's first diplomatic mission left Earth and headed toward the nearest alien fleet. The ship broadcast messages of peace in every mathematical language the scientists could think of. They sent pictures of Earth, music from every culture, and equations that showed humanity's understanding of the universe. Commander Hyun Woo was having a bad day when his sensors detected the strange ship approaching his crystal fleet. His forces had just lost another battle against the Hive, and he was tired of fighting enemies who seemed to multiply like insects. When his scanners showed an unknown vessel with organic-looking technology, he assumed it was a new type of Hive weapon. "Enemy ship approaching," reported Lieutenant So Young. "Unknown design, possibly a scout or spy vessel." Hyun-woo did not hesitate. 3,000 years of war had taught his people that unknown ships meant danger. "Destroy it," he ordered. The crystal cannons fired once. Hope's Promise and everyone aboard turned into a cloud of glowing particles in the space between heartbeats. Ambassador Taemin never had a chance to speak his carefully prepared words of peace. His wife and daughter never got to hear his stories about alien worlds. The news reached Earth 8 hours later. Dr. Jin Ho watched the footage from the alien ship's sensors, showing the moment when humanity's dreams of peaceful contact died, in a flash of alien fire. Around the world, people who had been excited about meeting aliens now felt something much darker growing in their hearts. President HFY stood before the cameras with tears in her eyes. "They killed our diplomats," she said quietly. "They killed our scientists. They killed a father who just wanted to make friends." The reaction was swift and terrible. Every nation on Earth began to change their space programs from exploration to war. Factories that had been building hospitals and schools started making weapons and warships. Scientists who had dreamed of learning from alien friends now worked day and night to understand alien technology so they could use it against its makers. General Subin took charge of Earth's military response. She was a small woman with kind eyes who had never wanted to fight anyone. But she had watched the footage of Hope's promise being destroyed, and she knew that sometimes peaceful people had to become warriors to protect what they loved. "They think we are weak because we tried to make peace," she told her officers. "They will learn that being peaceful and being helpless are not the same thing." The aliens had made a terrible mistake. They had turned humanity's greatest dreamers into their worst nightmare, and they had no idea what was coming for them. Earth went quiet. No more messages, no more attempts at contact. The humans seemed to have learned their lesson and gone back to their small planet to hide. But they were not hiding. They were preparing for war. 18 months passed in silence after the murder of Hope's promise. The galaxy's two ancient enemies continued their endless war, completely forgetting about the small blue planet and its primitive inhabitants. Commander Hyun-woo had destroyed so many ships in his long career that one more meant nothing to him. But the humans had not been idle. Deep in the asteroid belt beyond Mars, Captain Dong-hyun stood on the bridge of a ship that would have been impossible just 2 years ago. The vessel was called Retribution, and it represented everything humanity had learned from their crashed alien gift and their murdered diplomats. The ship's hull was made of Earth steel, but it was filled with crystal, technology stolen from the wreckage on the moon. Human engineers had spent months figuring out how alien power systems worked, then made them better by adding their own ideas. Where alien ships relied on one type of weapon, Retribution carried dozens of different ways to kill. "Are all ships ready?" Dong-hyun asked his crew. Around him, men and women from every nation on Earth worked together at stations that mixed human computers with alien crystal displays. They had trained for this moment, dreaming of it, preparing for it with the dedication of people who had seen their peaceful dreams murdered. 37 ships reporting ready," said Commander Yoon-ah from the tactical station. Like every officer in the fleet, she had volunteered for what everyone knew might be a suicide mission. All weapons loaded, all systems running perfectly. The SAO human fleet was small compared to the massive armadas of the galaxy's ancient civilizations, but every ship had been built with one purpose: to make the aliens pay for killing Ambassador Taemin and his crew of dreamers. Dong-hyun looked at the tactical display showing the alien battle raging near Jupiter. 2 crystal fleets were fighting, 3 hive armadas in the same pointless dance of destruction that had been going on for 3,000 years. Neither side expected any surprises. "Take us in," he ordered quietly. The human ships moved out of the asteroid belt like sharks emerging from dark water. They approached the battle zone without any attempt to hide, their hulls reflecting the light of distant explosions as aliens killed each other over territory that meant nothing. Commander Hyun-woo was in the middle of destroying another wave of insect ships when his sensors detected something impossible. Unknown vessels were approaching the battle zone from the direction of the primitive system his scouts had discovered years ago. "What are those ships?" he asked Lieutenant So-young. The vessels looked crude and ugly compared to the elegant crystal ships of his fleet. They were made of simple metal with no artistic beauty, covered in weapons that looked like they belonged in a museum. "Unknown design," So-young reported, her voice puzzled. "The energy signatures do not match any known technology. They appear to be mechanical." Hyun-woo almost laughed. Mechanical weapons had not been used in galactic warfare for over 1,000 years. Energy weapons and bioorganic systems had made such primitive technology completely useless. What kind? A fool would try to fight a space battle with metal bullets and chemical explosives. On the other side of the battle, Hive Queen Mina detected the same strange ships through her biomechanical sensors. Her distributed consciousness analyzed their simple design and dismissed them as no threat. These primitive vessels could not possibly challenge ships that had been perfected over millennia of warfare. Both alien commanders were about to learn how wrong they were. The human fleet reached weapons range and did something that shocked both sides completely. Instead of choosing one enemy to fight, they opened fire on everyone. Retribution's main guns spoke with the voice of human rage. Railguns fired metal slugs at incredible speed, punching through energy shields that had been designed to stop beam weapons. Nuclear missiles streaked through space, carrying the same terrible power that had once threatened to destroy Earth's own civilizations. But the most terrifying weapons were the ones the humans had built by combining their own technology with captured alien systems. Crystal cannons powered by fusion reactors fired beams that could cut through any armor. Biomechanical weapons grown in Earth laboratories released clouds of metal-eating bacteria that consumed alien hulls from the inside. The first alien ships died before their crews understood what was happening. Crystal vessels that had survived thousands of battles cracked apart under the impact of simple metal bullets moving faster than thought. Hive ships that could adapt to any energy weapon found themselves dissolving as human-made viruses ate their living walls. "Impossible," whispered Commander Hyunwoo as he watched 3 of his finest ships turn into clouds of sparkling dust. "Their weapons are primitive. This should not be happening." Captain Dong-hyun's voice cut across all communication frequencies, speaking in the mathematical language that all spacefaring civilizations used. His words were simple and cold. "You killed our diplomats. You brought war to our home. Now you face humanity united." The battle that followed lasted only 3 hours, but it changed the galaxy forever. The human ships fought with a fury that terrified both alien sides. They used tactics that no civilized race would consider. Ramming attacks, boarding parties, weapons that targeted life support systems instead of engines. When the smoke cleared, 47 alien ships had been destroyed. The human fleet had lost only 2 vessels. As the survivors watched in stunned silence, the primitive ships from Earth gathered their dead and disappeared back into the outer system, leaving behind only wreckage and a message that would echo across the stars. Humanity was no longer neutral. The 3,000-year war had become something much more dangerous. The galaxy's oldest war became a nightmare that neither side could have imagined. 6 months after the first human attack, General Subin sat in her command center deep beneath the surface of the moon, watching displays that showed human ships striking across dozens of star systems. What had started as revenge for murdered diplomats had become something much larger and more terrible. "Report from Strike Team 7, came Captain Yuna's voice from the speakers. Her ship, Silent Thunder, was somewhere near the galactic core, hunting alien supply convoys like a wolf stalking sheep. "We found another hive breeding station," Yuna continued, her voice tired but satisfied. "Destroyed it completely. Also captured 3 of their bioships intact. The science teams are very excited about what they found inside." Subin nodded. As she marked another victory on her star charts, the humans had learned to fight in ways that made both alien civilizations sick with fear. Instead of the grand fleet battles that had defined galactic warfare for 3,000 years, humanity used small groups of ships that appeared from nowhere, struck hard, and vanished before help could arrive. "Excellent work," Subin replied. "Return to base for resupply. We have new targets for you." Earth's war machine had grown beyond anything the planet had ever seen. Every nation had contributed their best minds and resources to the fight. Factories that once made cars now built warships. Scientists who had studied medicine now designed weapons. Artists who had painted pictures of peace now created propaganda that reminded everyone why they were fighting. The key to human success was something the aliens had forgotten after thousands of years of predictable warfare: the ability to change and adapt faster than the enemy could respond. Colonel Hye-jin proved this perfectly. Her stealth ships had been attacking Zephyrian crystal mines for weeks, using technology stolen from both alien sides. The crystal beings could track energy signatures and biomechanical movement, but they had no defense against ships that used simple human tricks like hiding behind asteroids and moving without power. Target confirmed, Hyejin whispered to her crew as they drifted silently toward a massive crystal formation that served as a Zephyrian fuel depot. Remember, we go in quiet, plant the charges, and get out before they know we were here. Phew. Team wore armor that mixed human engineering with alien technology. They could breathe in space, move in zero gravity, and fight with weapons that would have seemed like magic to their grandparents. But the most important thing they carried was the human ability to think of new solutions to old problems. The Zephyrians had been mining crystals the same way for 1,000 years. They never imagined that enemies might sneak inside their facilities and plant bombs that use the crystal's own energy against them. When Hyejin's charges exploded, the entire mining station turned into a miniature star that could be seen from 3 systems away. But it was Admiral Minho's boarding teams that truly terrified both alien civilizations. Space warfare had become civilized over the millennia. Ships fought at long range with energy weapons and guided missiles. The idea of actually entering an enemy vessel to fight hand-to-hand was considered barbaric and impossible. Alien ships were not designed to be boarded because no one had tried such a primitive tactic in centuries. Minho's Marines changed all of that. Breach successful, reported Sergeant Tae Young as his team cut through the hull of a hive cruiser, using tools that burned hotter than the surface of a star. Moving toward the command center now. The human soldiers wore powered armor that made them stronger and faster than any alien creature. They carried weapons that could fire bullets, energy beams, or chemical charges depending on what they faced. Most importantly, they had trained for close combat in ways that shocked enemies who had forgotten that wars could be fought with knives and fists. The hive drones inside the ship had been designed to fight other ships, not individual soldiers, running through their corridors. Their biomechanical bodies were perfect for controlling weapon systems, but helpless against humans who kicked down doors and shot them with simple bullets. Command center secured, Tae Young reported 15 minutes later. The entire ship is ours. Engineering teams can come aboard whenever they are ready. This was how humanity learned the secrets of alien technology. Instead of trying to understand broken pieces found in crashed ships, they captured entire vessels with their systems intact. Human scientists reverse-engineered everything from faster-than-light drives to self-repairing armor, then improved the designs with ideas that had never occurred to their creators. Commander Hyunwoo found himself commanding a fleet that shrank every day. His crystal ships were being destroyed faster than they could be grown, and his people were beginning to whisper about surrender for the first time in their long history. "Sir," Lieutenant So Young reported during their latest retreat, "we have lost contact with the mining stations in Sector 7. Also, 3 supply convoys failed to reach their destinations, and the humans somehow captured the cruiser Eternal Dawn without destroying it." Hyunwoo stared at his tactical display, trying to understand how his civilization was losing a war against primitives who had been flying in space for less than a century. The answer was simple but terrible. The humans did not fight fair, and they did not follow the rules that had governed galactic warfare for thousands of years. Across the galaxy, Hive Queen Minna reached the same horrible conclusion. Her distributed consciousness reeled from the loss of dozens of breeding stations and hundreds of ships. The humans fought like a disease, infecting everything they touched and spreading faster than her forces could respond. Both ancient civilizations were learning the same lesson. There was a difference between being experienced at war and being good at it. 3 years after humanity had awakened to galactic war, the shooting finally stopped. Ambassador Kyung-soo stood in the great meeting hall aboard the space station that orbited Earth. Through the massive windows behind him, the blue marble of his home world turned slowly in the darkness, peaceful and beautiful despite all the violence that had spread from it across the galaxy. In front of him sat the representatives of 2 civilizations that had once ruled the stars. Commander Hyunwoo looked older than his years, his crystal blue skin dulled by defeat and exhaustion. Beside him, Hive Queen Minna's biomechanical form pulsed weakly, her connection to her scattered people barely holding together. Both alien, Leaders had once commanded fleets that could destroy entire solar systems. Now they commanded the broken remnants of civilizations that had forgotten how to live without war. "Let me be very clear about our terms," Kyung-soo said in the calm voice that had once negotiated peace between Earth's nations. "Complete withdrawal of all military forces from human space. Full technological reparations for the murder of our diplomatic mission. Establishment of neutral zones throughout the galaxy where no weapons are permitted." Hyunwoo's hands shook slightly as he activated his translation device. "The Zephyrian Empire accepts these conditions," he said quietly. The words seemed to hurt him physically. His people had never surrendered to anyone in their 3,000-year history. Mina's response came through the mechanical speakers built into her organic body. "The Hive Collective agrees to your terms," she said, each word carrying the weight of billions of defeated minds connected to her consciousness. "Good," Kyung-soo continued. "Any future conflicts between your civilizations will be mediated by human arbitrators. If you choose to ignore our mediation and return to war, you will face direct human intervention." The threat hung in the air like smoke from a dying fire. Both alien leaders knew exactly what human intervention meant. They had seen their fleets crushed, their strongest fortresses captured, their most advanced weapons turned against them by a species that had learned to fight from watching old movies and reading history books. "There will be no more war," Hyung-woo said softly. "My people are tired of dying for causes we no longer remember." Mina's biomechanical form pulsed in agreement. "The collective seeks only survival now. War has become wasteful." The formal surrender ceremony lasted only 2 hours, but it marked the end of the longest conflict in galactic history. When it was over, Kyung-soo watched the alien representatives board their ships and leave for their broken homeworlds, carrying news that would reshape how every civilization thought about humanity. Years passed. The galaxy learned to live with peace. Commander Hyunwoo now served as the Zephyrian liaison to the human government, stationed aboard a monitoring platform in orbit around Earth. He had requested the assignment himself, wanting to understand the species that had ended his people's war with nothing but determination and cleverness. He often stood at the observation windows, looking down at the blue world that had changed everything. The planet looked so peaceful from space, with its white clouds and green continents, that it was hard to believe such a gentle place had produced the most feared warriors in the galaxy. "Still trying to figure us out?" asked General Subin as she joined him at the window. She had retired from active military service but still visited the station regularly to check on galactic affairs. "Every day," Hyunwoo admitted. "My people study warfare the way your people study art. We perfected our weapons and tactics over thousands of years. But you defeated us with ideas we had never considered." Subin smiled sadly. "We didn't want to fight you at all. We wanted to be friends." "I know," Hyunwoo said. "That was our first mistake. We thought peaceful meant weak." Down on Earth's surface, life had returned to something like normal. Dr. Jin-ho continued his research, but now he studied alien technology that had been freely given rather than captured in battle. Children played in parks and went to schools, where they learned about distant worlds they might visit someday as explorers rather than conquerors. The space stations that had built humanity's war fleets now constructed scientific vessels and trading ships. Earth's weapons factories had been converted back to making the peaceful tools of civilization, but everyone remembered the lesson of hope's promise, and every human settlement kept enough military strength to defend itself. The galaxy's new peace was not maintained by treaties or trade agreements. It was enforced by the simple knowledge that humanity was watching, and that they had proven they could end any war they chose to enter. Other civilizations throughout the galaxy had heard the stories of how 2 ancient empires had been humbled by newcomers from a small blue world. None of them wanted to test whether those stories were true. Hive Queen Mina had dissolved most of her collective consciousness, allowing her people to develop individual thoughts for the first time in millennia. She sent regular reports to Earth about her civilization's progress toward becoming something other than a weapon of war. The Zephyrians had stopped growing new crystal ships and started growing art instead, creating beautiful structures that, served no military purpose except to remind them that there were better things to do than fight. Do you think it will last? Hyun-woo asked Su-bin as they watched Earth turn beneath them. As long as people remember what happens when they bring war to our home, she replied. We didn't want to be the galaxy's police force, but someone has to make sure the shooting stops. The war was over. Humanity had won not through superior technology or larger fleets, but through the simple refusal to accept that some conflicts could not be ended. Peace reigned among the stars, enforced by the promise that those who broke it would face a species that had learned to fight by necessity and had chosen to stop by wisdom.